All right, good morning. As of right now, there is nobody on with me, which is totally fine. But today is day 50. And as it says, it's Monday, the 31st. So happy Halloween. We're beginning class right now. I'm going to go over what I call the new and improved chapter 14 through 16 pretest, which I sent to you this weekend. Um, I've attached a starter for the program. In other words, I built the GUI and put in a little bit of the code for you, just so we wouldn't have to waste time going over the GUI. All right. And I will put the completed copy of what I'll be working on right now out on my GitHub repository later today. And in the email I will send you later today, it will have the actual path to that repo. Tomorrow is your hands-on test. I will spend the first 10 or 15 minutes of class starting at 8:05 going over what the test is about. It will be due tomorrow night by midnight. The test will be emailed to you by 7 a.m., no later than that, 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. All right. On Wednesday, we're going to go over chapter 17, which is file input output, also known as file IO from the Muroc text. And on Thursday, we'll go over chapter 18, which is on link from the Muroc text. I'm not sure what you're going to be assigned for homework on there. I'm not sure if there will be a test on there. That's to be determined, and I'll let you know by the end of the week. All right, good morning, Grant. What I'm doing, just so you know, is I'm just going over the email that I sent out this morning. So we are going to go over on Saturday. I sent you what I kind of referred to as a new and improved chapter 14 pretest because it's a little more reminiscent of what your test will be like tomorrow that you're taking. So I attached a starter file that's got the GUI already built and a little bit of the code. And I'm going to be going through everything today. And when I get done, I will save this out to my GitHub repository because it is a pretest, so there's nothing wrong with that. Tomorrow will be the hands-on test. That hands-on test will be emailed to you no later than 7 a.m. tomorrow. And I will spend the first 15 minutes or so tomorrow morning, starting at 8:05, going over the test to make sure everybody understands it. The test will be due by midnight tomorrow evening. On Wednesday, I will be going over chapter 17, which is file input output or IO from the Muroc text. And on Thursday, we'll go over link. And as I mentioned earlier, and I just want to say it again, I'm not sure what you're going to be assigned from chapter 17 and 18 as far as written tests, as far as labs, as far as homework, as far as hands-on tests. I'll take a look at that and I'll let you know by the end of the week. On Friday of this week, it'll be our typical lab period. So again, no taping. And the chapter 14 through 16, really it's just chapter 14 stuff. There's a written test for 14 and a written test for 16. The homework was just for 14 and the labs were just for 14. Now, a couple people had told me that they were having problems with the chapter 12 homework that was in the book. So I will take that also through this Sunday. All right, with no penalty on it whatsoever. I'm a little behind on my grading. You probably figured that out. I believe I've got everything graded, I think through chapter 11, but I didn't do the chapter 12 stuff yet, other than your test. And I didn't do the chapter 14 through 16 because, again, that's not due until next week. I'll try to get to that stuff as soon as possible. Not to sound like an excuse monger or anything, but I'm having major problems in the program I'm doing with the afternoon class. So that's been taking up a lot of my time. No excuse. I'm just being honest with you. All right. So with that said, I'm going to come out here and give me a second. All right. So I believe, let's see, file. Yeah, this is the completed one. So I want to get rid of that one. I want to bring up the one and do it, for lack of better words, kind of in front of you So let me, yeah, now we got it. Okay, so taking it from the top, and I also want to, let's see if I can find that pretest on here. Apps, that's the actual hands-on test. Well, let me look. I'll find it. It's up in here someplace. There it is. Okay, so like I said, I went back and I kind of redid this, so it's supposed to look like this, and that's what I've sent you so far. So when you look here, I wanted you to add the entire validator class from Muroc chapter 12. Okay, so let's just do this in order here. All right, so I'm going to go back to here. I've got the validator class and I've got it in here. Now, if that confuses you, let me just remove it and I'm going to put it back in again. All right, so let me get rid of it. So I'm going to delete it. And now I'm going to add it back in again. And this is the way, probably be the easiest way for you to do it. That is to right mouse click on the pretest, choose add, choose class, and type in validator for the name. All right, now I've got an empty class here. All right, and it'll be public class validator. And the easiest way to do this then, in my opinion, is to go out, and you all should have this stuff. Mine is in a little bit different place, but if you go out, let's see. So mine is on my C drive under a directory called Muroc, whoops, C:\Muroc. All right, but all of you should have, because this is the student download, you should have the book applications and you should have chapter 12, product maintenance, and inside of there is the validator class. It's probably in other places as well, but I'm going to grab every bit of it and I'm going to grab it and just bring it all down here and just copy it all. And then take it and throw it inside of that new validator class right there. All right. What we're going to use in this program is the is present. All right, because the first name and the last name and the employee number have to be present. We're going to use the is decimal, and that'll be for the hours worked, the hourly rate, and the price per piece. This comment we don't even need. We are going to use the is int 32 for number of pieces, and we're going to use the is within range to make sure that the hours worked we put in is within range, the hourly rate we put in is within range, the number of pieces they made is within range, and the price per piece is within range. So I want to make sure all of those are done. All right. So that was the first thing to do. All right. And again, I'm just doing these in order now. Next, we are to add an employee class that has this stuff in it. All right. So let's go in and do that. And again, I put an empty employee class in yours, so there's nothing at all in here. And I changed it so that it does say public. Okay. So what is it supposed to have? Well, each employee is going to have three different things, for lack of better words. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the constructor in here. But before I put that in, I'm going to come down here and put in my getters and setters. And I used the newfangled way of doing this. So I said string first name and then just get, set, then string last name, again with a get and a set, All right. And finally, oh, that should be a semicolon. That's why I'm getting the error there. Okay. And then finally, an integer, which is the employee number. I just called it empnum. You could call it anything. It doesn't really matter, with a get and a set. So those are our three instance variables right there. Let me move this down a little bit so you can see everything. All right, so I'm going to write my constructor now. So public employee, and we have passed into that a string for the first name, a string for the last name, and an int for the employee number right there. All right. And now let's put these in. So first name equals first name. Last name equals last name. And empnum equals empnum. Now, I am going to go over this, even if we have already. And the reason is I want to make sure you have an understanding of what is going on here. All right. This line right here is saying when we go in and we create, or if we go in and create a new employee object, whatever first name that we pass in for that employee should go into that instance variable. Same thing with the last name that goes into that instance variable. Same thing with the employee number that goes into that instance variable. All right, there's only one more thing that we need to do here. All right, we want to have a display text message. And I don't know, hopefully I called it that, but let's see. Well, let's look. Yeah, a virtual display text message. And what does virtual mean? Virtual means that if I go and create it here, I can override it here and I can override it here. We'll have to do that in just a couple minutes. All right. So coming back here then, I'm going to come in now and I'm going to say public virtual string display text. All right. Now, the way that we do this, of course, is up to us, but I'm going to say return, and I've got the word name with a blank space plus first name plus a space plus the last name plus another space. In fact, we didn't even need another space there, plus, and then this will be on a new line, and we're going to end up putting this inside of a text box. So I need a \r\n, not just a \r. All right. Now we need to say employee number. Oops, plus empnum. That's it. Now wrap your arms around that if you can. All right. What this is going to print out. So if in here, I type in Jeff right there, and I type in Scott right there, and I type in employee number 1234. Then what that is supposed to do, that part of it is supposed to literally, and I'm going to get rid of this, I'm going to put it in as a comment. It'll print out name, Jeff, Scott, like that. Then on a new line, it'll print out employee number and something along the lines of 1234. That's what we're telling it to do right there. Nothing else. All right. And that is the one thing that all employees have in common, whether they are an hourly employee or a piece worker employee. All right. So any questions on that? I'll keep going unless I hear something. Any questions? Anything you need further explanation on?
No, no, I'm good.
All right. Then let's go over and look at the next one. Now I'm getting some errors here. And the reason I'm getting the error is it says there's no argument that corresponds to the formal parameter. Let's see. It says we have no formal parameter in hourly employee. Well, we're going to fix that right now. So we're going to go over to the hourly employee class, which is right here, which has basically nothing in it except for the fact that it inherits from employee. All right. So that's the only thing that we have in it right now. So what's new, so to speak, what's new in here for the for an hourly employee? Well, again, we'll have our constructor, but before I do that, I'm again going to put in my getters and setters. All right. So an hourly employee has everything an employee has, except they also have a decimal for hours worked. And again, we'll put in our old get set. And it has a decimal for hourly rate with, again, a get and a set. All right, so we've got that. So now we can go back to our constructor and we can say public hourly employee, employee, oh boy. And an hourly employee is going to have 5 things. So it'll have a string for the first name. It'll have a string for the last name. It'll have an int for the employee number. And it will also have, and let me move this over just a little bit. It will also have a decimal for the hours worked and a decimal for the hourly rate. All right. So as we come in here, what we want to do, and I'm going to have to add one more thing in just a second, but hours worked equal hours worked and hourly rate equals hourly rate. No, I'm not done, because what about these 3 things? Well, those 3 things that are right there have to be handled by employee, because that's where our first name, last name, and emp number are set up. So we come to the end here. I'm just going to put it on a new line, colon, base, and then I will put in here first name, last name, emp num. So again, what I'm saying here is I am letting the system know that the base or parent class must take care of the first name, must take care of the last name, must take care of the employee number. All right? It's their responsibility, or however you want to refer to it. All right? Now, the only thing that's still in here that we haven't done is we want to come in and we want to override that display text method. All right? So I'm going to come in here and say public override string display text. Oops, display text like that. Well, I don't know what happened there, but something did. So I want to do a return. Well, I didn't want any of that. So I want to do a return.base display text. Yes, I do want to do that. That'll give me the first name. That'll give me the last name. That'll give me the employee number. Then I want to add to that the \r\n, and then hours worked plus the hours worked dot toString. Now this is hours, so I don't want to format it for currency. Hours doesn't have a $sign, but I did an N2 on there, so I had it to 2 decimal places. All right, and then we will do it one more time here. Now, hourly rate is a currency figure, so we'll do that to currency. All right. All right. So let's see. What do we got here? Oh, I got it. That should have a plus sign. Whoopsie. There we go. All right. So when you look at this, what this is saying right here is what differentiates an hourly employee from an employee is that an hourly employee has these two fields in addition to the other three. So when we create or instantiate a new, a brand new hourly employee object, what we're saying here is that employee must handle first name, employee must handle last name, and employee must handle the employee number. We're only responsible in this class for handling this. All right, and we've got a getter and a setter for that. And then for our display text, we want to override it. So this says that anytime that we are printing out the information for an hourly employee, first we want to call the parent's display text. So the first thing that'll print out is name and employee number. So that'll print that stuff out. Then we want to add to that hours worked plus our hours worked and hourly rate plus our hourly rate. So again, I'm leaning on you here. Is there anything in there that doesn't make sense?
No, thank you.
Okay.
It does.
All right. And again, much of what you'll do tomorrow is similar to this. And I may have mentioned this to you guys before, I may not have, but I'll always remember giving this lecture years ago and getting all the way through it and having a student say, I get it. It even makes a little bit of sense to me, but it sounds like from what you're saying that virtually anything you could do with object-oriented programming, you could do it without it. Is that true? And I said, pretty much, yeah, that's true. And they said, okay, then why the hell do we have to learn it? And again, the idea is when you are creating a ton of these objects like this, now we're not going to create a ton in here, but if we were to create a ton of hourly employee objects and a ton of piece worker employee objects, which we're going to do next, etc., that it would be much easier that what this is doing is it's providing a template for us. All right. So we've now got the employee done. We've got the validator. I can actually just do a save all in here and close that. I don't think we're going to even need that anymore. But we've got our employee done and we've got our hourly employee done. So next we want to come in there to our piece worker right here. And again, our piece worker also our piece worker inherits from employee just like an hourly employee did. So again, I'll put my comment in here for my constructor, and I'm going to come down here and do my getters and setters again. And let's see, we will have what? An integer that we'll call pieces, and that's how many pieces per hour the employee makes with a get and a set. And we'll have a decimal that we'll call price per piece. And again, that will have a get and it will have a set. All right, now that I've got those two, I can come up to my constructor here and do my public piece worker. All right, and just like we did before, I guess piece worker employee, but again, just like we did before, string first name, string last name, int emp num. All right, and now what's new for this one again will be an int for pieces and a decimal for price per piece. And just like we did before, we'll put a colon base in here and we will have the parent employee handle the first name, the last name, and the employee number. Because that was num. All right. Now we're still getting that underline, but as soon as we put the curlies in there, that goes away. Now we want to say pieces equal pieces and price per piece equal price per piece. Not even going to worry about lining it up. That's it. So the only thing that we still have to do in here, like we did before, is we've got to come in and we've got to override. All right. Just like we did before. So I should have put that comment in there too, but override the existing display text method. And just for consistency's sake, put that in here also. There. Or in fact, I could probably steal all this and then just make a couple changes. All right. So yeah, we don't have these anymore, but we do want to still call the base. And now this should say pieces made or pieces, whatever we want to say. And that is pieces. Now, since that's a whole number, come on, Jeff. We don't have an N2 on here. We just have a .2 string. Because again, it's a whole number. All right, so this should be, let's see, pieces dot. So that one's fixed. And now price per piece, I'll just put in here price piece like that. Okay, well, all right, lines up a little nicer that way. And then price per piece, this one we do want for currency. So again, taking that one from the top, all right, we came in here, we said that anytime you instantiate or create a new piece worker employee, they must have a first name, a last name, and an employee number. These three fields, again, we're going to get from here and here and here. All right. In addition, the piece worker employee needs a pieces and a price per piece. We are going to end up getting those from here or from here. These two things, if you notice right now, if you notice, these don't have labels, and they actually, if I go back and look at the name of this right here says label 5 and label 6, and these say text box 5 and text box 6. The reason for that is I had them do double duty, because if I click hourly employee right there when I run the program, I want this to say hours worked and that to hold the hours work figure, this to say hourly rate and that to hold the hourly rate figure. But if I click the piece worker employee button, their radio button, then I want this to say pieces made or pieces, and I want that to hold the number of pieces that were made, and I want this to say price per piece and have that hold the actual price. All right. So you'll notice that when I come in here, for instance, I don't have a tag property set right here. Let me move that up so you can see it. So I don't have a tag property set for this. I don't have a tag property set for this, but I do set it, but I set the tag property in code. All right. But if I go to first name, notice it does have a tag of first name. If I go to last name, it has a tag of last name. And if I go to employee number, it has a tag of employee number. All right. And as I already mentioned to you, first of all, let's do a file save all. And Grant, is there anything in this particular class that doesn't make sense?
No, I think I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. All right. But again, what I want you to see, and I don't know if this will come up yet or not, because I stripped a ton of the code away. But if I come in here and run this, and I click right there, this is going to change. This is going to change. This will have a tag, and this will have a tag. That's what I want you to understand. All right. And I tried to write this in, I'm not going to say an incredibly modular way, but in as modular a way as I possibly could. All right. And did I succeed or did I fail? I guess that's up to all of you to decide whether or not I succeeded or I failed. All right. So when we come in here, let's look at the code because that's what we've got to do yet. So when we come in here, I kept this for you. You can see in here, let me move this over. I tried to at least put in some comments. All right. I don't know how many. It looks like I've got at least 10 to 12 global constants. So I said the employee number has to be between 1,000 and 99.99. Again, totally arbitrary values. But I picked those so that I'd be able to use the validator is within range class. All right. Same thing with min hours and max hours. I figured at a minimum, somebody doesn't work that week. At a maximum, they work 12 hours per day. Over a 7-day week would be 84 hours. The hourly rate, the minimum would be 0 again. The maximum would be 99.99. It may be possible at a company, I'm not saying at this one, but it may be that you have somebody who works there that's a volunteer. So they could literally work some hours, but make no money. That's why, again, I set the minimum rate to 0. All right. And if this was something for somebody who was sick or on vacation or whatever, that's why that's set to 0. And again, I arbitrarily just picked $99.99, all right, as a value there. I should be consistent here since I used a lowercase m in all those. I'll put a lowercase m there. All right. The most hours you can work without getting any overtime are 40, and the overtime rate is time and a half. Ideally, at least that makes sense. So these things that you see, these really, every one of these 6 constants, I'm going to put another comment up here that's just going to say hourly employee constants. All right. And these 4 that are down here are piece worker employee constants. So the minimum number of pieces you could make in an hour would be 0. The maximum would be 100. Again, totally arbitrary values. And if you said, well, why did you pick those? Well, I've got a brother who used to work on an assembly line. All right. And he told me that people who were there, unless they went to the bathroom for an hour or whatever, they typically made stuff, but there was typically a maximum because sometimes when one employee made something, they pushed it on to the next employee who might add something else and pushed on to another one, etc. All right. So again, those were totally arbitrary values, and the minimum price per piece would be 0, and the maximum price per piece would be $1. So the maximum, really, when you look at it, the maximum gross pay for an hour somebody could make would be $100 because they made 100 pieces and the pieces were worth $1 a piece. I also expected in here that every piece worker employee works 40 hours. I just made that assumption. I made that up. All right. So finally, we've got this gross pay in here, and I'm getting the squigglies because I'm not using it anywhere because I took the code that I had for it and I removed it. All right. So with what we've gone over thus far on here, any questions?
No.
Okay. Then let's go in. And again, I'm not saying I totally succeeded here, but I tried to write this in a really, really modular way. So this will probably take another half an hour to an hour to go over and explain it all because I want to make sure people get it. All right. So I came in here, kind of grabbed this from Muroc. I called it success. And I assumed, I said, I didn't set it equal to anything. I just got bool success. Now, the first thing I want to check is if this is not checked and that is not checked, if neither one of them are checked, when we first start running the program, if neither one are checked and I try to click calculate, I shouldn't be able to do much of anything. Well, how do I check for that? Well, I'll put a comment here that says check for neither checkbox chosen. And the way I check for that is I say if, and I can either say rad hourly employee dot checked equal false, but the shortcut is to say exclamation point rad hourly employee dot checked. That's doing the same thing. That's saying if that's false and if my other one is false, all right. So rad pieceworker employee dot checked. So if they're both false, then I selected neither one. So since I selected neither one, there's really nothing to do here. All right. Well, down at the bottom, and I don't think I removed it, I created my own show message thing. And you've seen this in umpteen different programs that I've done. That's going to print out a custom message box. So if that's the case, I did a show message that says you must choose an employee type, exclamation point, whoops, exclamation point. And then for the message, I just said no employee type chosen. It's like that. No plus sign there. I don't know how I got that, but I did. All right. So I should, what does it like? So let's see. You must choose an employee type. Comma has got to be there. There we go. I should be able to test this. So let me do a file, save all, and we'll come back and take a look at it. But if I come in here and I now click calculate with this not chosen and this not chosen, no employee type chosen, you must choose an employee type. But if I choose either this one and I click calculate, now nothing happens yet, or I choose this one and I click calculate, all right, now I'm okay. So this is just the minimalist check that I can possibly make right there. All right, so if I get down to here, in fact, I need a return statement here because I want to be done. All right, so one of the check boxes was selected. I don't know which one yet. I'm going to figure that out right now. All right, but before I do that, the first thing I want to do is when you look in here, whether you're an hourly employee or a pieceworker employee, you all have a first name, you all have a last name, you all have an employee number. You know that because that's what we set up in the employee.cs class, and the hourly employee and the pieceworker employee both inherit from employee. All right, so what I said in here was, okay, so since one of them is selected, I said now success is equal to, and I called it validate common fields, and that's those three. So validate common fields. Now I'm getting an error because I didn't write that yet. So we'll write that right down here. All right. So let's see, code that executes when the clear button. Oh, I don't want it there. I want to move this down. Sorry. So we'll write it right down here. So we're going to call this private void validate. Just do this. Validate common fields. All right. Now I'm getting that error because first of all, that should be a bool and it's not returning anything yet. Let's just type return true so that error goes away and we'll remove that later. All right. So this again is going to check and see if those three fields were filled in or not. All right. So there's actually, when you look at this, this can't be empty. This can't be empty. this must be numeric, and it must be between 1,000 and 99.99 because that's what we had inside of our requirements. All right. So in this thing, validate common fields, I'm going to say bool success equal true, and we'll change this down at the bottom to return success. And let me just put a little space in here. So let me hit enter a couple times there. Now it's pretty simple. We also want a string in here that I just called error message. And I set it equal to nothing. It's the empty string. If there are no errors, we will end up returning true. If there are errors, we will end up returning false. All right. So how do we do that? Well, we come in here the same way they did it in the chapter 12 stuff in Muroc. Error message plus equals validator dot is present. We want txt first name dot text. All right. So we want the first name and we want the tag property. So txt first name, let me put it on 2 lines because I just want you to be able to read all of it. All right, so that's the first check. And if it's not present, you're going to see it in a minute because I'm going to run this when we get done. And I'm going to leave off 1 field, then 2 fields, then all 3 fields so we can check these. All right, so that's the first thing we want to do. And then we have to do the same exact thing for the last name. So rather than retyping, I'll change this to last, and I'll change this to last. All right, not last. Okay, so that's checked the first 2. All right, next, well, we don't want to do the is present. We want to do the is int 32, and we want to do that on the employee number. All right. So what's left? Well, we also have to verify that the employee number is within range. So we could just put a little comment here, check for presence, absence of first name value in text box. All right, so that'll be the first one. Then we will check for the same thing, but for the last one. And then we're coming in here and we're checking for integer value in employee number text box. All right, one more check we have to make. And this will be a check for, we'll just call it range check for value in here. So this will be the is within range. And again, that is for the employee number and the employee number. So that's good, but I'm getting the error because we need a minimum and a maximum. Well, we have those. We've got min emp number and we've got max emp number. So you notice all my errors. Oops, try that again. I didn't mean to do that, but all of my errors have gone away. Well, now I've got a bunch of junk. Gone it, Jeffrey. Oh, it's because I opened up something else. There we go. All right. So we are checking for presence or absence of first name and last name. We're making sure that the employee number is an integer, and we're making sure it's within range. So when we get down to here, either we have errors, and if we have errors, error message is not equal to the empty string, or we have no errors. And that means all fields validated correctly. All right. So I'm going to do that by saying if, and again, there are different ways, at least potentially, of doing this. Is like I said, this is the way that I did it. Whether it's, the best way or not, that's for somebody else smarter than me to say. All right. So all I wanted to say here was if the error message is not, in fact, we'll do a dot trim on it. Dot trim is not equal to the empty string, meaning then we know there's something in there. So success then is false because something didn't validate. And we'll do our show message. We'll just print out the actual error message that we did up above, and we'll say the following errors occurred, or whatever you want to say in there, doesn't really matter. All right, we've set success equal to false, so either all the checks passed and success is still true, or one or more of these failed and success is false. If it's false, we're going to do this, setting it equal to false and giving the message. Otherwise, we're going to set it equal to true. All right, but either way, we're returning success. So I'll come back and take questions if you have any, but let's test this. All right, so we've got that now, but I have no first name and I have no last name and I have no employee number. All right, first name is the required field, last name is the required field. Employee number must be a valid integer value. If I put in my first name, leave everything else off, I'm now down to 2 errors. I do it again and put in my last name. I'm down to 1 error. I do it again and put in a number that's out of range. So the range was 1,000 through 99.99. So let's put in 999, which is out of range. And we get employee number must be between 1,000 and 99.99. And again, if I come back in there and make it 10,000, we should get the same error message. And we do. And again, if I do put in something within range, nothing's happening because I haven't put in this stuff here yet. And this still works. I could have done that first. But my question for you is there anything in this routine that I just went over with you that doesn't make any sense? Is there anything in here that doesn't make sense?
I don't think so. I think that's good. I think where I need maybe more clarification is with
Okay.
the
Okay.
subclasses. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to come back up here now. So if I get to here, all right. So if I get to here, if success equal true, the 3 text boxes, i.e. first name, last name, and employee number, just put it emp number, all validated, all valid. All right. So now that I've done that, well, first of all, if they weren't valid, I can just return. There's nothing more to do here. All right. So if not success, just going to return. All right. So let me actually grab this. And I don't need an else here. All right. So if success equal false, return. Okay. But if it's true, they were all valid. So now it's time for me to figure out, okay, what's left? Well, it depends on the type of employee, but it's going to be this field and this field, all right, which will be hourly rate and hours worked for there. And for this one, it'll be pieces made and price per piece. And I'll have to know based on which one of these two radio buttons I selected. All right, whoops, I guess I didn't, well, I'm going to do that, but later. All right, so when I come down to here then, I'm going to say now, let's see. So I've got my select success equals this. All right. In fact, I'm going to put this all inside of a big set of curly braces. So let me move these. All right. So I've got that. All right. But put in that ending curly. That's why it's complaining. Okay. So again, success equal validate this stuff. If it wasn't valid, just return. So if I get down to here, it was valid. All right. So check which radio button was selected. And program accordingly. I don't know. All right. So if rad hourly employee dot checked, well, then we know it's an hourly employee. Okay, that should make sense. Now, I didn't put an else in here because I just put else if rad pieceworker employee dot check. That's how I did it. It should never happen that, I mean, if it's not this, it should have to be this. And if it's not this, it should have to be this. But as the saying goes, just in case. All right, I did it like this. Okay, so I came in here and I said, now success equals, and I'm going to get an error because I haven't written this yet, but validate hourly employee. And in here, I'm going to say, let me comment it out because I'm going to write the other one first. So success equal validate pieceworker employee. All right. So first, let's write in the hourly employee. All right, because it's the first one that we use, so we might as well do that one first. Not real big, but again, what we want to validate is what's in here and what's in here. Plus, if we press this one right there, then we want the tag for this to be set to hours worked, and we want the tag for this to be set to hourly rate. All right. And we'll do a similar type of thing in just a minute if it's a piece worker. So let me get down here. And we have to write validate hourly employee. So we'll write that right here. Public, and that's going to return a bool. Validate hourly, oops, I forgot that. All right, so what do we have to do in here? Well, we have to validate that there was something in each one of those fields and that they were numeric and they were within range. So it'll be very similar to what we did before. I'll say bool success equal true. I'll say bool, not bool, I'm sorry, string error message equals double quote, double quote. Now, the first thing I want to do is remember this field does not have a tag set for it. And we need a tag when we do the within range. All right. But right now, if I click in here, there is no tag set. When I click in here, there is no tag set. So I'm going to set them programmatically. And we've not done that before. It's no biggie. All right. But we're going to do that inside of here. So I'm going to say text box 5, which was the first one, dot tag equals hours worked and better type tag and not tag. And text box 6 dot tag equals hourly rate. All right, now we've set those. So again, we can put a comment in here that says set tag values. All right, now that we've done all that, now we can come in here and validate hours worked and hourly rate. So we don't really have to check and see if they're empty, because if we check if they're decimal and we leave it empty, it's going to fail anyway. So I'm going to say here, error message plus equal validator dot is decimal. And what do we want? We want text box 5 dot text. And we also want text box 5 dot tag dot toString. And this wouldn't have worked had we not given it a tag value. And I spelled error wrong. So error message equal that. All right. And we want to do the same thing for the other one. So we also want to check. So this first one, this one is checking for our, oops. This one is checking for hours worked. This one will be checking for hourly rate. All right. So if neither of them are numeric, it's going to print out an error message. Should make sense. All right. Then we can come in and do our error message plus equal. Now we will do the validator dot is within range. And again, we need text box. Let me grab both of these. All right, so we've got the first two, but then we need our constants. All right, so min hours, I believe it was, and max hours. And there should be a comma there. And a semicolon here. All right. Now I want to do the exact same thing, but for the other one. So I can just make that a 6. I can make that a 6, but here I want to change this to rate. All right. Now you can be as picky about this as you want to, because you could actually make a case that says, really, why don't I check both of my text box 5 values first, then do my text box 6? All right. Doesn't really matter. So the first one is validating the hours worked. The second one is validating the hourly rate. And then just like we did before, in fact, I'm going to steal this. So either we have errors, all right, or we have no errors. So again, we're trimming this, setting it equal, boom. And now at the bottom, we just say return success. All right, that's it. All right. Now, the one we're going to write in just a minute for the other one is a mirror image, except instead of checking for hours worked and hourly rate, we're going to check for pieces and price per piece. Any questions at all on this one? Again, you'll get the code at the end of this. Any questions?
No, not right now.
Okay. All right, so let's go up and do the other one. So I'm going to take this out of there. It'll give me an error because I haven't written it yet. So we did the validate hourly employees, and down here we'll do a private bool, and that'll be validate piece worker employees. And again, much of this will be the same as what we just did. In fact, I'm going to copy the whole flaming thing from up here, and I'm going to put it in here and then make my changes. Okay. So set tag values. Well, now this should say something like pieces made. No, in fact, that's the tag. So we'll just call this pieces. And we'll call this one price per piece. All right, so here we'll first validate pieces made. All right, but it won't be now min hours and max hours. It'll be min pieces and max pieces. All right. And here we'll validate price per piece. All right, so again, this will be min price per piece, and this will be max price per piece. All right, and again, we're either going to have errors or we're not going to have errors. All right, so now we have gone in and we have basic just about, I mean, there's a little bit more to do here, but we've done a boatload of the stuff that we have to do. All right. And we did this if it was an hourly employee. We did this if it was a piece worker employee. All right. But now we've got this success, and we can say here again, if not success, again, we'll just return. And I'll do that for both of these before I write any more code. So if not success, return. Now, one thing you may or may not have noticed is, in many ways at least, I've been validating the DRY principle, and DRY is an acronym for do not repeat yourself. There is some repetitive code in here. Not a lot, but there is some repetitive code in here. All right. Well, if I get down to here, all hourly employee fields validated. What does that mean? Well, I can now come in and I can create an hourly employee object. All right, so that's what we're going to do in just a second. So again, we come down here and we say int emp number equal. Now we can actually do a convert dot to int 32 of txt employee number dot text. It won't fail because we already up above checked it. We can say decimal hours equal, and this will be a convert dot to decimal, and this will be txt. I'm sorry, this will be the text box. So this will be text box 5 dot text, and then decimal rate, and that'll be equal to, again, convert dot to decimal, and this will be text box 6 dot text. All right. So now that we've done all that, I can go in and I can create my hourly employee. Okay, let me create it, and then I want to mention something to you. All right, so I'm going to say here, hourly employee. We can call this whatever we want. So hourly employee, I just called it H for hourly, equal new hourly employee. Now notice when I put this in, the IntelliSense kicks in, and it says I need a string for the first name, a string for the last name, an int for the employee number, a decimal for the hours worked, and a decimal for the hourly rate. All right, well, the good news is I got all those. So I can say txt first name dot text, because that's my first name. I know it's not empty because I'd already validated it. Txt last name dot text. I know that's not empty for the same reason. Txt employee number dot text. All right. And I don't have to worry about that because, in fact, I don't even need to say that. I can say empnum. Now I could do that convert right here. I could put that in here. I just thought it didn't read very well. So I converted it up here. So now I can change all of this just to empnum. All right. And now instead of typing then all this and putting it in here and all this and putting it in here, now I can just add hours and rate. All right. So that is going to allow me to come in and, for lack of better words, it's going to allow me to come in and instantiate, been a better word here, instantiate hourly employee object. All right. Now there's one more thing to do because for each hourly employee, we have to figure out how much they made. All right. So I probably should have written this as another method, but I just put it all in here. So if hours is less than or equal to max non-OT, and what does that mean? That means employee worked less than or equal to 40 hours. All right. So if that's the case, they just get straight time. So the gross pay is equal to hours times rate. All right. But if I get down to this else here, well, employee works some overtime. So employee, I don't know what, but employee worked some overtime. All right. So there's different ways you can do this. I did it like this. I just came down here and said gross pay is equal to, well, I need my straight time first. So my 40 hours that they worked times the rate. So that's what they made for their regular pay. And then I added to that the hours that they worked minus the 40, which is max non-OT. All right. Times their rate times the overtime rate of time and a half. All right. So, whoops. So that should figure out the gross pay for somebody who has overtime coming. All right. So then finally, I want to come down here and in this box right here, I want to put the results. All right. So there's a little verbose, but txt results dot text equal, and I just put a little heading in here. So I said hourly employee stats. All right. Didn't have to do that, but I thought it read a little bit better with that in there. All right. And then we're going to add everything. So \r\n plus h, our hourly employee, dot, notice display text. It grabbed that from our hourly employee. All right. Then the next thing I wanted to put in there was their union status that we haven't even talked about yet, but we will in just a minute. So I need a heading here. So I said union status. And then plus, and then we say CHK was a checkbox for a union member dot checked. If it's checked, they are a union member. If it's not checked, they're not. All right. And then finally, we need the gross pay. So I need a heading there. All right. Plus, and then gross pay dot toString, and that's of type currency. Now, that was a lot to throw at you quickly. But I mean, at least conceptually, do you understand what's going on there?
Yeah, conceptually, I think I'm following
Okay.
along.
Okay. So What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go jump back up to the top here, and where I've got this after the if not success, I'm going to go and grab every bit of what I put in here right there, and I'm going to paste it in right here and just make some superficial changes. All right, so here it wasn't all hourly, it was all piece worker employee. All right, so instantiate a piece worker employee object. So again, we've got all those just like we did before, but now I said int p equals new piece worker employee. Still need the first name, still need the last name, still need the employee numbers, but now this is an int, which is pieces, and that's convert.toInt32. And that's text box 5. And this is price per piece. All right. And so this becomes pieces. And this becomes price per piece. All right. Oh, what did I goof up? Pieces, price per piece. Oh, we'll figure it out right now. So let's see. Cannot convert type piece worker employee to hourly employee. That's because this should say piece worker employee. There we go. Now we have to calculate the gross pay. Here we're calculating it for an hourly employee. And down here, we want to calculate it, and it's much simpler. We don't need any of this stuff. So we want to calculate it for a piece worker employee. And again, I said this before, but assume each piece worker works 40 hours per week. So I didn't provide for overtime for piece workers. So gross pay is simply equal to pieces times price per piece, or what do we call that? Did I call it price? Okay, price per piece times 40 hours, which is max non-OT. All right, semicolon. Then we need our piece worker employee stats. So that's got to be a P here. And for the gross pay, I think everything else is okay. All right. So that's pretty much it, but there's actually a couple more things to do here. We're actually pretty close to done. All right. But we haven't set it up. And I realize, I mean, you want a break or are you okay?
I'm good right now.
Okay. Because I'm only going to be about 15 more minutes, I would guess.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
we want to come in here and we want to do our clear routine. So our clear and set focus. All right. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to come in here. I'm going to write 3 methods. They're all short. So I'm going to write clear, common, info. Don't worry, because we'll write them in a minute. We'll write make, type, info, invisible, and we will write txt first name dot focus. And we're going to write this one right now, but let me comment that one out just for a second. We'll write it after we write the first one. So private void clear common info, which got that error out of the way then. All right. So clear common info. Well, what do we want to do? Well, what's in common? This and this and this. So we want to clear all 3 of those fields out. I'm also going to make sure that if this is checked, I'm going to uncheck it. I'm going to remove everything that's in here, and I'm going to make sure that's not checked and that's not checked. All right, so make sure these aren't checked, clear this, clear this, clear this, and clear this. That's it. All right, so let me go write those. So rad hourly employee dot checked equal false. Rad pieceworker employee dot checked is equal to false. ext first name dot text equals double quote txt last name dot text equals double quote txt employee number dot text equals double quote. Let's see. Txt results dot text equals double quote. All right, so let's see, that cleared that text box, cleared that text box, cleared out my first name, cleared out my last name, cleared out my employee number, cleared out the results, but I also want to say that that checkbox is not checked. So CHK union member status dot or union member dot checked. I want that also to be equal to false. All right. And that should be everything as far as clearing out the common info. Now, it's not going to totally work yet, but I haven't ran it for a while. So let me go back to here. And I am going to just set that. And I'm going to put something in here, and in here, and in here, and in here, and in here. That's read only. But if I click clear, well, those two have cleared, that's cleared, and these have cleared. So these two did not clear. All right, and that's okay. All right, because I didn't put those in there to clear. All right, this is just the stuff that's in common. So now let's write this one, this make type info invisible. Right, and this is just 4 lines. This is the 2 labels and the 2 text boxes. All right, if we want to make them, if in fact it's a little more than that, we're going to have a visible and an invisible. All right, so let's do the invisible first. It's a little longer. So text box 5.text equals double quote, nothing. Text box 6.text equals double quote. Let's take the tags. So text box 5.tag equals double quote. Text box 6.tag equals double quote, and then our labels. So our label 5.text equals double quote. Our label 6.text equals double quote, and then let's make everything invisible. I cleared it all out, so now I can say label 5.visible equal false. Label 6.visible equal false. Text box 5.visible equal false. And text box 6.visible equal false. And like I said, you may or may not agree with this, but I did my best to try to really write this thing in a modular type of manner. Now, when we get all done, we're almost finished. But when we get done, if something doesn't work, that's all on me. I didn't take this out of a book. I didn't take this out of anything. I literally sat down and wrote this Saturday morning. All right. So that was the invisible stuff. Let's have another one here that we have a private void, and we'll call make type info visible. And this is a short one, 4 lines. Label 5 dot visible equal true. Label 6 dot visible equal true. Text box 5 dot visible equal true. And text box 6 dot visible equal true. Sorry. All right. Let's see. I am really, and I mean it, coming down to the bottom. The only other thing that I want to do is when the form loads here, right here, I want to make sure that these 2 things here are invisible, or these 4 things, because I haven't yet picked which radio button I wanted. All right, so in there, I'm just going to call, because I've already got a routine now called make type info invisible. All right, hopefully at least we're finished. Let's take a quick look. All right, so when I run this now, if neither one of these are chosen, no employee type chosen, you must choose an employee type. That's good. If I click hourly, well, that isn't coming in, so I've left some code out. If I click this, that's not coming in. So there's still a little bit of code that I have to add. Let's figure out where that is. All right, I want to look through my junk here. And I think I know where it is. Yep, I didn't put my code in here for check changed. It's 4 or 5 lines for each one, and it's pretty much the same code. So text box 5 dot tag equals hours worked. Text box 6 dot tag equals hours worked, or hourly rate, I should say. I think I did that before, so I may have put the right code but put it in the wrong place. So we'll look. Label 5 dot text equals hours worked. And label 6 dot text equals hourly rate. And then finally, I want to make this stuff visible. So make type info visible. All right. And let me copy this. Most of it's pretty similar. But I don't want it to say hours worked. I want it to say pieces. I want this to say price per piece. I want this to say number pieces made. And I want this to say price per piece. All right, now let's check and see if we're finished. Save all, run it. Again, if neither are checked, okay. If I check hourly, okay, hours worked and hourly rate, so they both are here. So now when I calculate first name, last name, and employee number, because it's only checking the common stuff first. So if I put in a name here and calculate, all right, now last name and employee number. So if I come in here, put in a last name, now it's just employee number. If I put an employee number out of range in either direction, there's one that's too small. There's one that's too large. All right, but if I put in something that's within range, now it should check these 2 things. Hours worked must be a valid decimal value. Hourly rate must be a valid decimal value. So if I come in here and put in, remember, the hours worked were 0 to 84. Let's put in -1 here for both of these. And we get hours worked must be between 0 and 84. Hourly rate must be between 0 and 99. All right, so let's change this. No overtime, so 40 and 25. That person should make $1,000 should come down in here. Hourly employee name is right, employee number is right. All right, we did not check the union member, so union status is false. They worked 40 hours, $25 and 1,000. If I just do this, just click on here and tell it to calculate again, that changed to true. If I come back to here, and I know because if I do a 50 here and a 20 here, they've got overtime, this should change to 1,100 right here. And it does. So all of that stuff, everything that's in there appears to work. Now we've got to run similar checks, but we've got to do it for the piece worker employee. So piece worker, again, pieces made, price per piece. I'm not going to run through these. It'll look the same if I leave them all blank, etc. So I'm just going to fill this in. And if I leave these empty, pieces must be a valid, oh, that should say integer value. So there's a mistake that's got to be fixed. And price per piece must be a valid decimal value. Again, if I put a -1 in for each one of these, pieces must be between 0 and 100. Price per piece must be between 0.00 and 1. So if I do come in here and say that you made 50 pieces and you get 75 cents per piece, let's do the math before we hit the calculate. So in other words, this should be, to make sure it comes out right, you made 50 pieces times 0.75, and then you've got to multiply that by 40. So that should be 1,500 if I did that right. And it looks like it is. Again, if I change the union member and run it again, it goes to true. If I make this number of pieces made, let's say 10, and the price is $1, so that should change to 10 and 1, and 10 times 1 is 10 times 40, that should become 400. And it all seems to work. All right, clear works. Probably should have put the focus up here, but it's totally fine the way that it is. All right, and again, I want to be real here. The thing you do tomorrow, this is a lot more work than the one you do tomorrow, just so you know. No, you're not going to have to write this thing with 330 lines in it, but I tried to write tons of comments throughout here so that you knew exactly what was going on. All right, this one right here, this piece is made, that should have been an is int 32. All right, that was why I got that wrong message. Other than that, I think everything works. All right, any questions, Grant, on anything that we've done?
Not at the moment, no.
All right. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into here. This is the one that we just did. It's called, if I can find it, Chapter 14 Pretest Students. So I'm going to immediately come in here and I'm going to do a get init, a get status, and you'll see there's a bunch of stuff was all in there. All right, so let's do a get add dot. All right, now we'll do a get status to see what's ready, and you'll see there's a bunch of stuff here. All right, we'll do our get commit -m, and I'm just going to say pretest 14 through 16 done in class on Monday, 10/31/2022. So that's all ready. I'm going to go out to GitHub And this, I got to make sure I give it the same name, of course. So it'll be this, chapter 1416. So let me grab that name from in here. Go out to GitHub. Do a new repo. I'm the owner. Give it that name. It's valid. Click public. Create the repo. Grab my version from in here, or my remote, I should say, my remote origin. Come back into here. Paste in that remote origin. I always like to double check it. So git remote -v. Looks like it's correct. So git push -u origin. Again, -master. There it goes. And if I refresh, it is now out there. All right. Thanks for sticking around. Again, at 8:05 tomorrow, I'll spend about 15 minutes going over the test and what you're supposed to be doing. The test will be emailed to you by 7 a.m. tomorrow. The test is due by midnight tomorrow night. Unless you have any other questions, I will talk to you tomorrow.
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.